Hitting the fall of Somoza scenario. I've already set it up, so screw it, I'm going to do it. I was mistaken about what the different sections of the scenario book are. They're actually the length of the scenarios. So some of the introductory scenarios, one of them, the SS-20 incident, is an intervention game scenario. So if I'm going to do that, highly questionable, but it's kind of it's a weird little cute situation. So maybe it's a good intro to it. I have to do the intervention games rules. And what I found is the 1979 revolution, the entire God, I'm trying to find this here. It's kind of hard to find what's where. The entirety of, there it is. The 1979 revolution is a conventional game scenario, but the difference is it's in the campaign section. It's 44 turns. So this is the very end of that, supposedly. Which explains why there was an extra Somoza piece on the board. That might be an intriguing thing to look at, but again, I don't know how much tolerance I have for playing these different scenarios. So it's like, what the hell am I doing? You know, the game always feels a little dry to me. I want to get to something richer, and then I think this is usually my path, and I don't end up doing the full 79 revolution, because it's just a conventional game scenario, and kind of the fun in this is, hey, what if you send the 82nd Airborne in there? You know, what about the world tension stuff? All that kind of crap. That's all really interesting to me. One thing you could do, although this would just be hell, is have coincident games happening at the same time. Maybe figure out some kind of over-guiding scenario principle, where you have something like this going on to handle interventions going on in Central America. You have Gulf and Aegean strike ready to set up and go with, maybe even Flashpoint Golan. Just games of these being ready in a sort of a campaign, not a campaign, but a convention type setup, where some things are happening and you have some mechanism for determining the overall world tension, right, from these interventionist type operations. This is the only one I think that really handles the world tension thing on it, but Gulf Strike probably should. Maybe have some of the fleet games ready to go, and some kind of worldwide deployment options, because honestly, the biggest thing with the U.S., their troops are incredibly high quality, but their capability to deploy a lot of troops in this period is not very good, because the main commitments in Korea and in West Europe and Japan and whatnot are already there, and you've got like 3 Marine divisions or something like that you've got to deploy, and everything else is pretty, well, you don't have a lot of flexible units that you can use to react throughout the world. I remember in an NSDM game, somebody's like, well, why don't we just send 2 Marine divisions in there? And they're like, yeah, well, that leaves you with almost nothing. You've just really committed to the sector in terms of U.S. Strike capability. Same thing with carrier groups and whatnot. There's a lot of effort in it. But I can just picture something where, eventually events on this game, if the tensions go high enough, you end up playing NATO or something at the same time. But you've got this horrible situation where you're deployed here, and you've got to figure out some way to get, if the tensions go up too high while you're deploying here, you may not be able to protect Western Europe with the resources that you need. Would be a really interesting idea. I'm always interested in these kind of, let's layer another game over all these games, or multiple scenarios. Anyway, that's That's not here. Oh, something else that's been on my mind. So one of the things this kind of reminds me of is Imperium Romanum, which is like, yeah, there's serviceable, lots of serviceable scenarios in it. At least there's, some things that are bigger than others. One of the problems I have with Imperium Romanum is I feel like there should be a campaign scenario here. There isn't really a grand campaign, but there are a couple of scenarios, there are a handful of scenarios that together kind of represent the whole campaign pretty easily. So you're not looking at, 40 something scenarios. There aren't that many in here. We got 16 and then the scenario generation system. But they're all kind of dry and the same-ish. These little ones are an exception to that. But once you get to the bigger things in the scenario generator, it all kind of feels the same to me. Especially if you don't have that massive intervention. If you're playing something that's similar to the historical situation at all. All right, what about this one? There are a bunch of special rules in this one. We got the setup in play, and you can see things are a little more complicated. We got, here's some of the special rules. They aren't fully spelled out. You got these CDS units sitting inside cities. The black counters are the Somozas, and everything else is pretty much the Fsln, the Liberation Front. But there is some weirdness to it. Notably, you got things like this. There's supposed to be allied supply sources for the Somozas to use, but there aren't counters for that. There aren't counters for generic allied supply, and there aren't counters for Somoza supply. So I've got a CIA one up here. That needs to be there because the Mesquite Indians are actually on the Sandinista side in this scenario. They'll be anti-Sandinista in most of the scenarios. So just a little bit of confusion there. I've also, and I may make this a standard thing, since the insurrection does not have air units, I am just not using their chart at all, but I'm not sure. The majority of both of these player aid charts is just a single numeric track that I think I'm happier putting everything on. We have some other things, some supply depots here, and these riots. Riots show up in a couple of scenarios. Okay, let us look at the special rules. The Garda Nacional have to stay inside Nicaragua. They can't go invading anything. Which is important because there's a supply source in Costa Rica. That's, a communist one. The Garda Nacional has supply sources in Managua, Jinotep, and Puerto Cabezas up here. The first two are down here in the center of their operations. Very quickly you start seeing, wow, there's a lot of units I'm not sure are anywhere near in supply. Yep. Starting on game turn 5, the only supply source is Managua, and the other two are removed from the map. Also on this turn, the Garda Nacional can no longer reorganize or rebuild. The other supply sources on the map are ignored. Notably, all the infrastructure that the Sandinistas build up during their period isn't in place yet, including the big airport. Communist supply sources are Chinandega, Liberia, and El Bluf. El Bluf is here. Now, I don't think there's a special rule saying that this links up for supply purposes. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look that up. But, well, if I care. But I think there should be. Which is kind of a weird thing. But basically, if you control El Bluf and Ramas, you have this capability to sail back and forth between them. So what does that mean? I don't know. But this supply source doesn't make any sense without some kind of rule like that. The other two, one is down here and one is up here. And you can see the Nicaraguan, the Sandinistas may be having trouble with supply in some cases too, especially if this thing doesn't count for anything. You know, these guys can't operate. What? I don't know, because they could just grab the Allied supply source if they can operate at all functionally. Okay. Upgrading FSLN units. During ground combat phase each turn, the communist has to note down the number of steps losses suffered by the GN. I'll use a counter for this, I don't know what. For each step lost, the communist player is allowed to upgrade one of their insurgency battalions, the 114s here. There's actually one that's not a 114, so not that one, into a 123 infantry brigade, which is a reduced strength 233. During the reinforcement phase, or you can take 2 reorganization points at the end turn stage, and we got the reorg points up there. You're not going to get reorg points from anywhere else, and your units are not all at full strength, so maybe you want one, maybe you want the other. The 114 insurgency must be able to trace a supply line to a communist supply source, and it cannot be in an enemy zone of control when it's reorganized. If these 2 conditions are met, it's removed and replaced with the other unit, and then the insurgency unit is recycled, and you can rebuild it using your insurgency command points. Now, I have like 9 insurgency command points, so I have a fair capability to recycle insurgency points. And this is not a long scenario, it's 7 turns, but again, 9 points in 7 turns. I'm not going to be able to, replace everything and whatever. The points can be used in a turn after they're received to reorganize FSLN insurgency units as per normal rules. Now, the problem with that, of course, is you've got a reorg marker, which is possibly threatened and requires that you sit there for a full turn. And again, it's a short scenario. I don't have a lot of time to play around with stuff. 3 times during the game, the communist player can drop a riot on the board. I got them over there. Yeah, we didn't talk about something else. These cannot move. Hold on, let's see. 1 riot can be declared in a communist insurgency replacement phase. The communist player places a riot in a city of his choosing. No more than 1 can be in a hex at a time. They can't move or attack. They have a defense value of 1. To remove the riot, the allied player has to initiate ground combat in the riot hex or from an adjacent hex. If the combat results in a defender's step loss or retreat, the riot is removed. The Garde Nationale take combat losses normally from that. They cannot trace supply lines through a riot, nor can they draw supply from a riot hex. Whenever there is a CDS infantry unit placed in a hex as a reinforcement. So this is interesting. There are some to begin on the game, and then there are a bunch that come in as reinforcements, and this is the only rule that applies to these that I'm aware of anywhere. Maybe there are rules for it in the campaign for this, so maybe I better look for that. GN control of the hex is negated. A CDS unit cannot move or attack, and it has a defense value of 1 or 2. This value is not doubled by the city, although if there's another unit with it, that can be doubled. When the CDS unit occupies a city, communist units can enter the hex even if the GN is already there. The communist units gain all normal benefits when attacking or defending in the hex with a CDS unit. As long as the opposing units occupy the hex, neither player controls it. If the CDS is eliminated in combat, the communist units in the same hex must retreat 2 hexes. Units defending in a city can ignore retreat results from combat normally. A CDS counts towards stacking restrictions. It counts as a support unit. The airport at Puente Huete, which is the big one up here, doesn't exist yet, so you can't use it. The victory conditions for this one. These are more reasonable ones. So, for the FSLN to win, they basically have to control Managua and a number of other cities, up to all of them. This is not going to be trivial, but 5 or 6 other cities. Well, there aren't a lot of cities in this game. Cities are the big red circles, and I don't know where they all are. Maybe it's time to pull out my chips again. For the GN to win, the Garda Nacional, the communist player controls 5 cities in Nicaragua, but not Managua. Basically, they are not able to lose Managua. If they lose Managua and the Fsln does not get enough cities, neither player wins. So that's kind of an interesting situation. All right, I'm going to peek at that 79 scenario and see. Oh boy. I don't know, we're at 30 turns, 20 turns. These look like campaigns. Great. There we go. Looks like they just copied the same rules on the CDSs. And I don't see any reinforcements in this one. Great. I got an order of battle. The communist order of battle is in the insert for setups. This might have a... Where's that insert? Insert my ass. It's all the way over here. Yeah, we just have these listed here, and there's no instructions on how to use them. Anyway, as usual with this game, I'm having a hard time motivating myself. Yes, the last one wasn't painful, but I know it gets painful at some point, you know, and in just sort of a non-engaging kind of way. It's like, at least with Vietnam, I've got, you know, the population numbers that I'm working towards. I've got this big game that I'm playing, and all the tactical stuff and all the tedium in it is kind of has a payoff at the end of each thing. Same with the really big games that I really love, and I don't understand why I don't really love Vietnam and take the same pleasure in it. I think there's too much tedium for it. In this one, you know, it's kind of a conventional war game in a lot of ways. Granted, things are a little more mixed up. The last one, it was just purely a conventional war game, basically. But in this one, things are a little more mixed up. Now what, you know? Well, that just confuses me the same way that the situation in Vietnam does when I'm moving units around and they're all interspersed with each other. I don't have front lines. I'm just kind of like, oh, what the fuck do I do? What are my goals? What am I doing? You know, I am not built for this kind of, you know, for the idea of an insurgency or something like that. I just really, I have trouble with it in Vietnam. I don't remember having as much trouble with Blood Tree Rebellion. I think that went less in that direction. And like I said, this game doesn't feel all that much like an insurgency, but in a way it does. It has that same kind of, I look at a board, I see a bunch of stuff interspersed with each other. How do I cope with this? You know, deploying my units to start where I don't have supplies and everything. I would rather it be a lot more abstracted, I think, much as I generally oppose that. After much debate and finally finding, you know, taking a nap in between fucking around on the computer for 5 or 6 hours or whatever, it's that hard for me to face things when I really don't want to. I don't think I'm going to make any special rule for this. The supply, there's nothing in the river transport that says that it applies to supply. And when we look at supply lines, it very clearly doesn't work that way. There's no exception to supply except the first turn exception. So these guys could run off and do something, and if they can establish a supply connection doing that. And here's the thing, supply status is checked each turn, so all they have to do is run back. There's a 4 hex supply range, I'm within that. Then I can run, let's see, well, the engineers can't, But the Communist International, 1, 2, 3, 4, well, no, it's not going to do any good. So, yeah, there's just nothing. There's no way to get supplies to these guys in time, which means that they just, are able to control this part of the country, and that's it, at best. That part of the country is unimportant. There are no cities there. The only thing that matters in this scenario is the cities. So we'll leave it as is. I know that I've faced this dilemma before when looking at this game, and there are a lot of sketchy places like this. I had thought the rules were really well done, but I'm becoming more and more convinced that they're not that well done. The repetitiveness has led to bloat. It doesn't end up being terribly easy to reference because the index isn't good. So I look up something like El Bluff, Bluefeld's, Rama. It's not in there. I have to remember that the rule is named river transport to find it in here, I think. We can see about that. Yeah. So unless you actually memorize or happen to remember the particulars of a rule, and more or less all of them, you're not going to find the information that you need, which blows chunks, to tell you the truth. All right. Counterinsurgency. I don't remember if you have to detect that in insurgency growth in some way. I know that I didn't mention that. Okay, well, something else to look up. Maybe I'll be back in 8 hours. No, I think I'll have the fortitude to do it right away because I've got a little bit more energy right now. But honestly, this is kind of the state I was in before, where I abandoned the game because I just know there ain't that much that's good in it. For example, I looked through the air missions, and counterinsurgency isn't even in them. So I know it exists, but now I'm flipping through looking for, well, where is that? I think it's somewhere in the insurgency rules, maybe. But who the hell knows, God damn it. I am growing so disappointed. I think, once upon a time, I wasn't this old. I don't see it here under counterinsurgency. Damned if I know. I just missed it. But yeah, you can see my level of frustration. All right, well, let's fucking start. Starting the communist phase, I drop a reorg marker. There's a damaged unit there. That's in the ground unit reorganization. We're not playing with that. That's not. By the way, the whites are optionals, not intervention game. And I haven't added the optional roles yet. I was planning on doing them after I do the intervention game. You can play them, though, within the conventional game. So things like demolitions, guerrilla attacks. These are things you can play in either type of scenario. Regular ground movement, I start considering what I need to be in supply, because I would like to get out of there. That doesn't matter. I put my little dots for areas I have to control. Currently, the Sandinistas control a few. Well, this I don't think they actually control, but a few of the cities are under their control. But in order to do anything, I think I need to get something cleared up, which is I am going to have trouble running supply. I've got 3 supply locations. I've got here, which gets me to here, and that's about it. I've got here, which gets me to here, and that's it. And it's not going to do any more. But on the first turn, I'm automatically in supply, which is kind of neat. And I've got this one. This one supplies these units. I actually can get supply down to here, because the lake, there's no supply cutting across the lake. But this unit is my problem. That unit has got to go. That is cutting my supply lines everywhere. I'm not able to slide through. Actually, well, no, I'm in supply everywhere. Screw that, man. Well, not quite. There's no zone here. That's important. So I can trace supply up here, through here. Okay, so this is not as vital, but it could be problematic. I should be getting rid of one of these two units. And given that, I can move the Communist International and the engineers, who don't serve a lot of purpose without the optional rules, except for combat, towards the center of the fight. So there's my ground and insurgency movement. I've got no extra insurgency units to place. What have I done? Well, I'm launching attacks here and here, and moving units forward. This guy is heading off to destroy that supply depot. I don't know why. In a sense, I could probably just ignore it, because there's almost nothing that that the Somoza can do with that. But I can take it and knock it out. But it's a strength point that I probably shouldn't be wasting on that. Down here, I've moved forward, but I'm not going to launch an attack. There's not any insurgency, no counterinsurgency, no air missions that I'm allowed to fly, which puts me to the ground combat, where I resolve those couple of fights. I actually abandoned one of my attacks. This one here, I forgot the unit is doubled in the city. I succeeded there. I destroyed a unit. There's no reorg for the Somozas. I marked that down with 2 victory points. Why 2 victory points? Well, because those are the points that are going to turn into my reorg points when that happens, which is when? During reinforcements, I get the choice. Okay. Which is soon. So why am I upgrading? That's fine. Okay. That throws me reserve movement. I'm a little worried about some stuff. In particular, defending my supply route through here. So I'm going to use my reserve movement to arrange for that better. Now I've got these slightly weaker units that I can replace a couple of insurgency units with. During my reinforcement phase. And that gets rid of those 2 steps that I canceled out. These guys are available next turn. I can't place them this turn anyway, so I'll just throw them over there. We've gained something. I'm not sure it's enough, and unfortunately I left this kind of weak, which means the Garde Nationale might be able to take my main supply source away and lose me the game. Yep. Whee! This guy's not in supply, so he is unable to upgrade to a regular unit. I'm not sure he would want to. But I certainly don't want to move him out of there. I get, during my reinforcements, a CDN unit, or whatever they are. One of those weird units. When do I declare the riots? During communist insurgency. I can trace supply. I can prevent supply lines. I should be thinking about that. How can I fuck the Garde Nationale supply line? Like, could I have cut this out of supply and caused an issue there with a riot, say here? That would be really interesting. But again, it's really hard for me to grasp everything. This is actually a pretty complicated little scenario for an introductory, because it's got like a couple different little fucked up extra rules in it. And these CDSs, the control is negated. What does that mean? The communists can enter even if the Garde Nationale. I assume that means my insurgents can go in safely, but I'm not sure. Doesn't seem to fuck with supplies unless they have a zone of control, I guess. It negates control, so, I mean, you can't trace through it. So what would that mean? I've got one that I'm getting for free. Again, I probably should have hit harder earlier in the turn. Nyeh, 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 nyeh. I don't want to put it there, that's for sure. Where am I allowed to put it? In a hex as a reinforcement. Well, it doesn't tell me how I place it. But it tells me where. Granada, 2321. Okay, well that's kind of nice. Because otherwise I'd have to make a decision. So there, that's there. And I guess that puts us over to the Somoza regime. And, you know, the mixed stacking and all that is causing additional problems with this one. That's my move with this. I think I'm just hurting myself. It serves no purpose to be there. Of course, because these get removed at the end of turn 5, I just don't think that supply source is worth chasing down. And the complexity of the choices is just killing me, you know? This is where the game is complex. The rules, there's a lot of stuff, but it's pretty chromy feeling when you're looking over it. But then when you start looking at, and it gets bigger with the optionals and everything. When I start looking at just even this situation, the insurgency nature, where I can pretty much intervene anywhere I want to, where I have power, but where do I want to? And so, like, you know, yes, I could move the unit out of here into to attack the reorg unit and cost that reorg, and that might be worthwhile. But I also I'm likely to lose the strength point that I attack with. I'm not able to get a good attack there. So yeah, I'm going to hold off on that. Instead, what I think I'm going to do is aim to destroy this CDS. And I want to destroy the Managua one. But what else? I can probably manage one more action. And do I want to hold the line in places like this? Am I going to be in supply is a big question, right? Because unless I have Messiah, this guy's going to be out of supply. And that's problematic, you know? Which maybe says maybe I should be focusing on Messiah as my attack. But I got to protect my airfield here. You know, I've got a huge number of different little problems I have to cope with right now. Located movement doesn't help either. Let me just push these here. I've got this regular ground unit movement, then I have the insurgency movement. There's advantages to me using the insurgency movement for certain things. But I also have to be careful, like if this unit moves into here, I can't attack this because now I have to attack that as well, right? And what the fuck, this is, shit. This is piled in there. The hexes aren't big enough for two sides to be in there. And there's these fucking children in the park behind me, which does not help me at all in terms of making decisions. But, God, they're fucking annoying. I wish my turkeys would come back. Maybe they would chase them. Yeah, I honestly don't think I can play while those shits are back there. I fucking hate people. The worst thing about COVID is it's the middle of winter and there's kids in the park now because they can't have play dates at home anymore. No, this isn't that common. But yeah, I really have trouble grasping, you know, what I want to do and how I want to do it. It's just such a tangled mess. I don't like tangled messes. I like simple shit. Something, it says, during his ground combat phase each turn, the communist player notes down the pieces that the GM loses. So I don't have to worry as much about taking step losses with Somoza during my own turns. Of course, I don't want to do it. I really don't want to do it. I have little enough pieces. But at least there's not the collateral effect of captured and conversion of units. I don't think I can move into this hex while that CDS unit is there, which really complicates matters. because that means I can't attack from here without including this shit. And I can't use my insurgency in there. Oh, God, this is fucking annoying. And again, the fucking kids. Not sure if I can move into this hex because of this shit being here. Again, there aren't detailed enough rules about what the hell those things are. These are things that are like... Communist units can enter the hex even if GN already occupies it. As long as opposing units occupying neither controls it. Which really fucks me over. And I have to shout because there are fucking children around. Like, if I can't get in here, all I can get is this 2, 3, 4, 2 to 1 there. These guys could attack this if these guys attack that, but that doesn't clear my problem. I could pull out of Rivas. That could cause me... that could allow me to attack here then. With 4. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to have to do. I pulled the other unit out already. I think I have to pull out of there. Remember, I'm in supply for this turn, and I think we'll just launch these attacks as is. I should have an insurgency reserve on this thing because it didn't do shit. But it's allowed to advance if I don't put the insurgency reserve, so let's not. It's also in a place that I probably need to fucking hold. Not for victory points, but otherwise. And I don't know. I've got all kinds of goddamn modifiers on my counters, and I'm just going to start chucking some dice and see who dies. Because I don't think things are going to go that well. So let's open up, I don't know where. What am I attacking? I don't fucking know. Jesus, I can't fucking... Everything's interrelated, and I'm not launching attacks elsewhere. Let's do this attack first, because I think it's the easiest. So I've got 2, 3, 4 strength points there, including some armor against that CDS. Now, it's sitting in a city or whatever. What the hell does that mean? I don't know. So we're 4 to 1 in rough. Well, that's pretty good to begin with. And, oh, I got planes. What the hell? Why don't I use my fucking planes for something? Because I can't remember what I'm doing. All right, I got to do my air missions now. So I set up all my ground stuff, and now I can't play with that because I got to go down here, to the air mission phase and figure out what the hell I'm going to do with my planes. Now, I'm almost certainly going to use them. God damn. Trying to play this on camera with fucking shitheads nearby is just ridiculous. But, playing it on camera in and of itself is really hard because I'll just fudge shit when I'm playing it solo and maybe get some stuff wrong. Okay, talking about the planes. I think what I want to do with my planes is close air support. I can't think of other missions I want to do since I'm not going to be doing any counterinsurgency because the communists have already gone. I don't have to hold my planes in reserve for that. I would like to rebase one of them, at least, because I've got too many planes for that location. I've got this transport plane. I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with a transport plane, to tell you the truth. I can't move a supply source. If it was a depot or something, I would be able to. I'm not going to have supply in Esteli next turn, so I don't want to fly there and try to transport that unit out. I'd love to get it out of there. So I don't know what the hell a transport plane's going to do for me in terms of quality of life. So maybe I'll just leave it there. It's not hurting me any. I mean, I could conceivably transport something out here and utilize this supply source to launch attacks going this way. That doesn't seem terribly productive. That's not where the game is, and I wish I could go out and just hunt those kids. That would be awesome. They've gotten a little quieter at least. I could run, use it to fly something quick towards the end of the game, and grab a city or something, which might be its only result. So what that means is I have a 2 and 3 1s that I can drop. There's nothing the communists can do about them. So I will just deploy my close air support markers, which there are +2s in here somewhere. Whoops. Now, one thing you'll notice is that I clipped the hell out of these counters. This was early on in and some of them are mutilated. This was early on in my counter clipping days. I did a couple of games where I had a friend who really liked the idea of exceedingly clipped counters, like far more than I usually do. For this game, I thought with the informational counters it would be useful. Another game that I did it for, unfortunately, was John Carter, because the counters had a really hard time fitting in the spaces. So they definitely needed to be clipped. Did they need to be clipped as badly as I did now? So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to place these fuckers where I want them. Well, where am I launching attacks? I've got a helicopter assault here. Why? Well, because I'm trying to protect my airfield. I'm just going to move all these into the used box. And then I've got 1, 2... Jesus, I don't know how many attacks I've got. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 different attacks I gotta launch. And I have to launch all of them. So, since I've got the helicopter in here, I'll throw that there. What's the most important thing? Well, I actually think this is, because that's the central location. And I'll drop these others here and here. And we'll try to get control of the center of Nicaragua. Not the center of Nicaragua, but the center of the power source in Nicaragua. Was there anything I could do with this fucker? While he's in supply, now he would be halved, but he only has 1 strength point. So I think he's fine holding that, because it'll be doubled for being a city. So it'll be 1 times 2, because the halving bottoms out at a 1, and then you double it. So I don't think there's many places I could slip away to. I could go here, but the fact that the communists don't control that, and they would have to actually send a rail unit there to capture it, or do combat against it. So, all right. So what are we down to? We're at ground combat. What was I gonna pick? I don't fucking know. I was gonna do this one because I know what I have to commit there. So I have 4 strength points there, facing God knows what, 2. So I am 2 to 1 in clear. Was this indeed the place I was going to attack first? I don't know. Maybe. Okay, 2 to 1 in clear. That's going to put me up here. And now my modifiers. City, town, or port. We do get that. We don't get the doubling, but we get that. So that's a -1 to the die roll. Right? These are die rolls, I think. Yeah. It's funny, yeah, die roll modifiers and column shifts, and then it just marks, it doesn't tell you which one it is, but then here it tells you column shifts. So, for each bombardment point for ground combat support, I'm dropping 1 into that hex. That gives me to 0. There are no insurgency units in this attack. I am saving it for this attack, I guess. Because I don't think these 2 hexes are adjacent. If they are, I'm fucked. And I would have to move here. So I don't know. Okay. None of the optional rules are in play. Do I have anything special? I have an armor unit. It's clear, rough, or forest. So that gives me a column shift in my favor. And I don't have the attack helicopter. I don't have EW. That's it. Okay. So I have no pluses. Nothing exciting. I roll a die. A 4. It's going to be this row. I shift down. It looks like I have a success. I cause it a hit and a retreat. It's not allowed to retreat, so it is destroyed. And we'll get rid of those over here. So we were successful, and we used these units to attack. I'll mark them because of I've got to catch everything. Here. Yep. Let's do this at 2 to 1. 2 to 1 in the rough drops me down to there. There's an insurgency unit on the defense. Insurgency means a -1 to the die roll. I counter that with close air support. Ooh, I forgot. I actually had a +1 to the die roll here because I had the close air support that I didn't count in. So yeah, so this is just 2 to 1 there with a straight up die roll. We get a 6, that's a pretty good die roll. And we do a hit to this. It does have to retreat. Whoa. I don't think this was destroyed. Yeah, I wasn't going to get down to the 2 hits. Remember, you can ignore retreats in cities, so he's still there. He doesn't have to take that extra hit. Likewise, in towns, you can ignore retreats, so I stay there. This unit has attacked. This unit has been attacked. This unit has been attacked. Okay. I guess I'll launch this one. It's also somewhat easier. 4 strength points to 2. In a city, but it's a CDS, so it's not actually doubled, if I recall correctly. I don't remember. I know one thing isn't. I know the riots aren't, but I think the CDSs are not. They're not doubled in the city. Okay. So I'm again 2 to 1 in the rough. Modifiers with this, they're pretty good on my favor. Oh, shit. There's modifiers for towns or no? I don't fucking remember a damn thing. Yeah, there was a -1 for the city. So actually, this counteracted and went the other way. It went back to a 0. Cities, towns, and ports get the -1. I'm not sure about the retreat bonus then. Well, let's go see that. The little shits are gone. I gotta swap batteries. I was gonna complain about something else, which is I can't find the retreat rules very quickly. I had to go urinate, and and now I'm back where I was. That led me to thinking, well, what about the terrain effects chart? Because, you know, hey, whatever. Well, we had this looked up. There's an I here. I don't know what that I stands for. Insurgency units may have, yeah, okay, that's that. So that doesn't handle what has to be there. Wait, what about other stuff? No. Okay, so it's not there. It's hard to find shit in the rules. There is a terrain effects chart over here, but I don't think it contains what I need. It might. And am I talking about a city or a town? What am I attacking anymore? I forgot. There's too much shit going on in one place with too many counters in one place, right? This is probably the worst. See city. No paradrops. 1 defending unit's defense value is doubled in a city. Provides a -1. Okay, so that's all there. Town. Insurgency units. Okay, I don't see the can ignore retreat results from combat in the city, not in a town. Was I attacking a town? I think so. I would think I was attacking this. This had a retreat. Can I retreat? I cannot. So this has to take the hit. Except it's an insurgency unit. It's allowed to retreat, ignoring zones of control, but I think maybe not if it can't, not if it ends up in one to finally land. So I've got to find that fucking retreat roll. Insurgency. They can freely retreat, but they cannot end their retreat in one. Yeah, so I can't find a place that I can put him, because if I go here, I'm still in a zone of control. So he is dead. Now, how many turns away does he come in? I think it's 2 turns that he comes back. Not positive, but we'll fudge that. So we were successful here, which means I can advance after combat. Now, I don't really want to lose my base. This is not a terribly valuable place, so we'll advance here, and now I've moved all of these. Now, I have only one unit that can attack here. That's this thingy bob. It's my Rangers or whatever. I think they're special forces. No, maybe they're not. Maybe they're just insurgency units. Uh-oh. Well, the coloring and the lighting, the fucking lamp goes in and out. And my battery's almost dead. I think what I got here is an attack of 2 to 2. That'll be a 1 to 1 in rough. That's not good. I thought I had more coming in. You know, I don't think I threw these guys in. I think that's the deal. Okay. Yeah, so I'm 2 to 1 in the rough. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had everything set up so I had 2 to 1s. But I've got a lot of special shit going on here. First of all, I have the close air support. That's +2. One of that goes away due to the city, so I'm at +1 on the die roll. And I have an engineer and an insurgency unit. Now, the insurgency unit is not a special forces, so it doesn't give me a column shift, if I'm recalling these things correctly. Again, insurgency is a +1. So I'm up to +2 on the die roll. I have a combat engineer, which I don't remember which way it goes. That's a column shift. There really should be a modifiers track on this, like there was, you know, if you're going to have columns and modifiers, put them both in there. You know? The columns is the easier thing. I could just move one damn counter for that. I don't need 2 counters for that. Well, I don't know. Okay, and I don't know. I hope I didn't just flip that counter. I think I'm just attacking that at +2 on the table I'm on. I think. Who knows? Too much shit to balance and bobble. Another 6. That's a good roll. That's a very good roll. That does 2 casualties right off the bat. So we destroy this CDS unit. And we get one of these. I get to advance. Now here's the problem. This guy already attacked. I kind of don't want to give up this space, remember? I can't advance after combat with just that. I think I can safely advance one of these. Okay. Now the big battle, which I've held off for a long time. Why? Because it's the big one. Let's pull out of here. So, I have 1, 2, 3 strength points, the middle number there, to 1. So that's 3 to 1 in the rough. This one I view as absolutely vital. Nothing special there, but I have the attack helicopter. What does the attack helicopter give me? Well, I scan through this, and again, I find this representation of the shifts, especially with the optional rules and the intervention game rules and all that in there, much less effective than, say, what I had coming through in Omaha Beachhead or in Korean War, which also have complex combat systems. But this hey, let's represent the game. Let's have, 3 different sets of rules, basically, in the game, and set the charts up by that. And not just maybe put a dot or something next to them. An attack helicopter with ground support, which is what I'm doing, gives me a column shift. So I go out to here. I don't think I have any pluses to the die roll on this one, except for I have a +1 for close air combat, but a -1 for the city. And we roll a 6, we win. We kill that off. This is gone, we get rid of that. And we've done a good job. This thing has completed its mission. It's actually only 90 degrees. It could go somewhere else on its return to base, maybe to set up for a defensive mission somewhere. We've done one hell of a good job there. I could have returned my planes to a different base, but again, I don't think I need that transport. I would rather not have to defend too many locations. I might need the transport later in the game. I might set up another air base, say, I don't know where. Is this the Punta? No, this is Punta. This is some other air base that I could run out of. Okay, now what? I gotta figure out what the fuck to do with these. Reserve movement, we didn't set any up. Insurgency, helicopter transport, return to base. This is where this guy has to go back somewhere. Where do I want him? He's doing a pretty good job where he is. I'm worried about an attack up here because I've just granted that territory back. Reinforcements, I don't think there are any for the Allies. I do have reorg points. Wow, I thought I didn't. Fuck. I could have reorged some units. But I don't think I was in a position where I could safely reorg units. And remember, they have to keep that for the turn. So, I think we're done. That's a turn. Yay! I recycle my planes. I could swap out my sitting into an available instead if I so desired. I look around. Are there any counters I want to deal with? The reorg, I don't think it's dealt with here. If it did, it would give too much of an advantage to going second. So I think it happens during the reorg phase. I'm just guessing there. I'm not going to look up any more fucking rolls in this game. Seriously. This is just like... This scenario is definitely a nightmare, but this kind of nightmare can show up in the other scenarios. And that's all just peachy dandy, right? Okay. I think we're done, and I will come back if I ever have the will to play this some more. God. Yeah. So the last scenario was really, really light. And it felt like, and remember, I told you, it's not like this all the time. I made that sound like a good thing. I'm not sure it is when you're facing shit like this, where you have this tangle of like so many different attacks at once. And, you know, this is one of the introductory scenarios, right? This kind of situation is going to happen every now and then in other scenarios of it, I assume. Maybe not quite this hairy. This is about as hairy as it gets, I think, in terms of number of interactions, all in close quantity, where you have a lot of units, you know, all embedded with each other. And then you have these stupid things that are allowed to live in the same hex that are like a special rule for this scenario and for the 79 revolution. All right. God, I wish I could do something else with my life. This is the first time we're dealing with real supply issues. We're looking at the communists. Now I have a supply base here, and that can obviously get everybody down here. This thing's out of supply, but it doesn't matter. These guys have supply coming from this base. Over here, we're able to trace through these roads all the way back. But these two units are stuck in hell. Because this was their only supply source. I've got a couple of choices. I can try to slip around, half movement points, remember. Or I can try to drop down there, or I can use a depot. I don't remember the rules on depots. Interesting. So we'll look those up and I'll be back. Air transfer capabilities, my depots are weakened greatly. I can only place them in cities, ports, and air facilities I control. Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to place one in Rama. That would solve my problem, actually. Which maybe I can, maybe I can't. It's a specific type of port. It's limited from doing other things. It's called an inland port, but the other one's called a coastal port. Damned if I know. And I don't even know how to fucking face it and figure it out. It would be a nice thing to do because then I could blast through here, get myself in supply. So what the hell? I'm going to allow myself to do it. I don't have any fucking clue. So I'll drop that there, and that will actually give me a trace so that I don't have to do this. How do you keep track of what you control? Yeah, that's another good question. Blast through it, but pain in the ass, right? Okay. Ground unit reorganization. I get to unflip this unit. That's cool. And then I have some reorg points that there may be other units that I want to deal with. Remember, I created some new units. The danger, of course, is something like this could stab down and hit me. And without figuring out where all my attacks are going to be, I don't know whether or not I'm safe. So you kind of have this, well, I got to do a bunch of things at once. Okay. I'll do that, and I'll keep in mind that maybe I want to reorg a unit instead of moving it. Conducted my movement. I'm making an attack on a Steli. I'm leaving this alone for now. It doesn't serve me much purpose. Doing a reorg here because I've got a lot of cover, and I've pushed in all directions towards that central area. I don't know where the reinforcement is coming this turn. If there is one, it's coming in Esteli. Well, that'll be great. It'll help me garrison it. I do want to knock that out. I don't want this unit moving around and doing stuff. My mesquites, my other forces have all moved up in place. Now, I have the opportunity to place an insurgent unit. I have, nope, not yet. Yeah, I have a couple of them available to me. I could spend a couple of insurgency points, but if I do, A's are double. These are all A's. So they could knock out 2 units, and I just waste my insurgency points. And they're basically able to get their planes anywhere. So there's no reason for me to do that right now. I don't have any air cover or anything like that. Conceivably, I could create insurgents maybe out of range. They're range 20 out of here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's in Honduras. Forget that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I could maybe build something way up there. It wouldn't get into play in time to be of any value. So what I'm looking at is trying to knock the airport out, but that's not going to happen anytime soon because I've lost control of that sort of Managua central area. And that may have been a mistake. I don't know if I could have stopped it, but all right, launching me some attacks then. And in a sense, the fact that, I took insurgency points, well, that I took insurgent conversions to regular units might have been a disadvantage. Conceivably, I could take reorganization points, which I'm running kind of low on, to build up the units that I already have on the board. I have one reorging here, but I think I have a couple units. There's one. This is probably one here that could reorg. So I'm running low on those points, which is a reason maybe to take those. If I destroy this, which is probably a 2-step unit. Yeah, sweet, huh? And then this is another 2-step unit. So maybe I'll do a split, create some more reorg points and some actual regular units. So, not doing any of that. Don't have any air missions. We get to our combat. Successful down here. Here, not so much. We caused a step loss. That got us a total of 3 points that we're going to get to play with when we hit reinforcements. I don't think there's much else left. I did my reserve movement. Yeah, so we're on the reinforcements. And now comes kind of the question, how do I want to do this? I think I'll trade one of the points in for 2 FSLNs. And I will two reorg points, and I'll trade the rest in for swapping insurgent units out. I'm not thrilled with this for a couple of reasons, but because insurgents are actually better, but I might end up spending a bunch of insurgency points, letting him kill his 2 that he's allowed to destroy, and put more on the board, because I got another one coming in here. If I had any riots I wanted to place, I don't really feel like I need to disrupt this. I'm going to lose this CDS, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, that's the end of the Sandinista turn. That puts me back over to the Somozas. Now, for the Somozas, last turn was hell, as evidenced by my normal reaction of foul-mouthed spewing. But I think it's going to be a lot easier now. There's just not as much confusion here. I've got solid fronts in my different areas. Yes, the Sandinistas can cause me problems with riots, but they're not going to be the same level of problems as what I had going on. I've got like 3 riots I can only drop 2 in a given turn. So I've cleaned up most of the problem. And I think that's actually necessary, and I think it's kind of a shitty thing about it. There are a lot of games that are this way, where like, boom, you got to do all your shit right at once. It's a reason why maybe it would have been better to do the 79 Revolution, 44 turns or whatever, instead of the 7 turns, with the first one being absolutely huge. But I think I did the right thing, to tell you the truth. I don't think there was much different that I could have done with the Garde Nationale. Oh, one thing I want to note, I've got a very important supply source here, empty and open. Presumably, the Garde Nationale could drop paratroopers in there if they had some. They don't. So that's not a problem. They also don't have a transport plane that's available to do anything. So they couldn't, there's really nothing they can do. Their helicopter isn't capable of transporting units. But this is a dangerous thing to do in some of the scenarios, to leave something that important open. Normally there are plenty of supply sources, but you do want to protect them when they're very limited, and they're very, very limited for the Sandinistas right now. Sandinista position, I'm spending a reorg point, I already marked it down, to fix this unit. I'm going to try to clear this, but here's the problem. I would really love to clean this up and create an open area to my south, not have to worry about the Costa Rican section. But the problem is there's 6 fucking strength points there. Yeah, I can be foul-mouthed even when I'm not disturbed. And that means it's going to take a whole hell of a lot of effort to get through there. Then I got units like this. Wow. I did not see him. Shit. This fucking multiple. Well, okay, game's over, right? Boom, boom. There it goes. That is the game. It really would be. It really would be, because there is no remaining supply for the Sandinistas, and we can just say game over because you made one stupid little mistake. Or I can try to recover that somehow. I don't fucking know how. I guess I'll just withdraw these back up here. That's horrible. I was counting on this being, plugged up, But otherwise, you know, it's game over, and I'm willing to accept this payoff. I'm pretty sure I could have moved there or something. But, you know, if I knew this fucker was here, I could have probably attacked him, but I would have had to arrange other units and everything, and that's not going to happen. So what we had was an immediate gap to protect my sole supply source for the game, basically. I mean, all of my units are using this supply source. If I lose that, I am so fucked. And whoops. Yeah. And why is it? Well, it's because I have multiple players' units in one hex and didn't leave them messy. Probably straightened some stuff up like I seem to have done here too. But I had one that was covered, and that fucking sucks. Great, yeah. Okay. Well, that may change what the Sandinistas, or what the s'mores want to do, because now I have an opening to save this unit, which would be very, very helpful to me. And I think I want to take that. I think I want that to be my major goal, and this will be my secondary. A little bit better situation. I'm going to put this guy here because he's not going to be able to push through if I'm there instead. And that gives me a little bit more flexibility. But yeah, this is the kind of picayune shit that this game just generates. And yeah, it's fine with a 7-turn scenario. What if this was, you know, the 44-turn one that I don't know, you know. I mean, if I just lost this, that would be fine in 744. Not so good. My air phase, I have 2 actions I want to take in terms of attacks. I'm going to be attacking here. I moved this down here with an insurgency reserve so that I can attack and then move back in there. You can't do that shit with armor. But that gives me tons of bonuses. One thing I've got is this attack helicopter, which I'm going to send 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That adds a strength point to this attack, which is really vital. And it gives me either a column shift or a die roll bonus. I don't remember which. But in addition to that, we have to... I don't know if I could have been... No, I can't enter that hex because there's Garda National in there. Okay. Trying to piece together what the different elements of the game actually mean when put together, and that's not absolutely clear. I had something... Oh, I've got my planes. So... I can drop a +2 in one of these fights and a +1 in the other, and that's it. And that gives me another 1 point of plane. Now, had the insurgencies been placed and I had to wipe them out... Oh, wait, do I have 4 planes? 2, 1... Okay, so I've got like 2 or 3 points of bombardment. What do I want to do with those is the question, because I'm going to do close air support with the other things, but what the hell can I do with my planes? Well, I don't have a really good plan, which means it's time to start looking at what the different missions are and what the hell I might be able to do. Aerial counterinsurgency, no, that passed. Bombardment strike, maybe. And that is about it. Okay. What do I want to bomb? That's what I thought, but I wasn't positive. Well, I could bomb a ground unit with 3 to 5, and I'd have some chance of blowing something up. I look at some of this stuff and see if anything applies, and it doesn't. So on a 5 or a 6, I could do a step to something, which could be a big deal. Like if I hit this, it would be pretty cool. Other options are terrain features: bridge, air facility, road, port, and Messiah. None of them sound appealing to me. There's nothing I really need to do. So I am going to commit 3 of my air points into this little plane, and I'm going to fly somewhere. I can only do 1 step. What do I want to hit most? I'd love to hit this shit. Terrain doesn't matter for this? I don't know. Haven't read the rules, right? Yeah. More like I've read them multiple times and don't remember them. And that's just the way this game is going to be. You're going to constantly be looking at things. Whether there's any requirements. Doesn't appear to have any kind of terrain effects. I don't see any terrain effects here. Wait, there's this. Swamp, forest, jungle, or mountain jungle. Okay, so I don't want to hit something in the nasty terrain, which is important because I would consider hitting one of these to slow that shit down. But instead, this is my best place. I'll be bombing on the 3 to 5 table. I need a 5 or a 6. And I miss. Okay, and then I'm going to use the other 2 planes to drop close air supports. Do I need these? I don't fucking know. Maybe, maybe not. Again, I'm not comfortable enough with the combat system to know I'm going to work out just peachy. I feel like I have really high odds. Why do I need these? Could I have done a bombardment with a bigger factor? No, I couldn't have. It would still be on that 3 to 5 chart, and I couldn't have hit 2 different units, so we're all fine with that. Successful in both battles. We go to reserve movement. It's okay that I used my insurgents in combat. I can still insurgency reserve them back into there. Now I have the attack helicopter. Now this is the iffy thing. I could leave it here and help defend this. Or I can fly it back to where it came from or somewhere else. And this appeals to me. Provide a little bit more defensive capability along this line. I'm worried that that's going to break. Of course, I could get my defense helicopter hurt. I could also have that attacked at low odds or something. But that would be pretty shitty. I'm going to go with this. Okay. And that gets me to the end of the turn. And we rotate these back out. And as you can see, a much, much, much easier turn. Sure, still some complexity, still some problems. One major fuck up, which is going to cost me heavily because now I have to block this off. And, you know, by blocking this off, maybe I can destroy units that would be harder to destroy if they were closer in, but it just doesn't look good to me. And my battery's almost dead, so because this camera sucks juice. And so I'll swap that out, and I'll be back in a little bit. I don't know when. Again, it just feels so inane for the amount of effort that I'm putting into the game. And I feel the same way about Vietnam, except for the hearts and minds part of it, the large-scale control of things. And that's kind of one of my problems, why I'm not a big fan of, you know, this operational level. Even though this is like a whole nation or whatever, I feel like the level of detail that I'm going into here is way beyond what I'd want to go into. And with modern stuff, I'm absolutely uninterested in anything at a lower level, like skirmish level or whatever, battle level or whatever. And yeah. All right. Cutting into yet another turn, the third one. And I've done I checked my supply, it all looks good for the Sandinistas, and I reorganized my unit. I don't know if I have something else I want to reorg. But the main thing to look at here is what are my goals for this turn? I need to get to Managua quickly to have any chance of winning this game. The scenario, victory conditions, obviously at the end of turn 7, I have to have at least 5 cities in Nicaragua along with Managua to get a victory. Well, right now I'm sitting on 1, 2, 3. This fourth one's easy to get. but I have to bust this line. Once I bust that line, it's over, right? Because after turn 5, Managua is the only supply source for the Garda Nationale. So if we can get Managua early, that would be fantastic. So can I put my pressure on this? Will I have enough force to get in there? Probably not, because the river hex, well, that's just like a -1, right? No, -2, unfortunately. But I have an engineer nearby. If I can get that engineer into play, 1, 2, 3, I can. I might be able to launch this attack across there. I gotta look at my stacking values. I believe this counts as a support unit, which means I look at the stacking values, and support are 1-pointers. Even if it is like a brigade, it doesn't count as a brigade. And I think that's going to be my major goal for the turn. I do have to worry about what's going on down here, though, because I left that. I ended up with that gap. Whatever. All right. So that's what we're aiming for. This is going to be a little painful. There's a reason they attack helicopters there. That is the key location as far as I'm concerned right now. This is where we're positioned. The reorg, as I said, we're going to try this attack here. We can negate the river with the engineers. It's still dangerous. We probably aren't going to succeed. An attack over here, cleaning this up, we took this hex. Over here, we're not launching an attack. We have 6 strength points, but we'll face a 6 defense. I don't want to go for a 1-to-1, I don't think. I don't know. Let's see. I'd have insurgents, which counteract the city bonus. We're in the rough. 1-to-1 in the rough says on a 2 or less I take a hit, and over on here it's a 4 or higher. I actually have the advantage. I may launch that attack as well. The problem is that what if I get a shitty result, right? What if I get a 1? Then I have to retreat and I take another step loss, and that's something I'd rather not face. I also have to make a decision on whether or not I'm going to try to drop a bunch of insurgents. An insurgent down here would be useful to me. The problem with insurgents is they are not support units, which is why I'm here with like only 4 strength points, whereas I'm facing 3. So again, a 1-to-1 attack. I got some advantages though. The engineer, of course, I'm facing the attack helicopter, so I don't know. We're kind of in this attrition type situation, but we can afford it because those are the only reorg points that the Somozas are going to get, whereas the Sandinistas get them every time they kill Somoza units, which is kind of a reason to do the attrition attacks. All right. Results so far, the attack here, this was a 1-to-1 attack as well. We succeeded with that, got ourselves a point for the remaining step that was there. Over here we attacked, we lost a step instead of gaining. I did not do the insurrection units. Why? Mainly because I forgot, but again, the bigger my pile, the less that the counterinsurgency airplanes can take care of. Now, this game is nothing like an insurgency. You know, it is not a coin-style design. not just in terms of that. It's not a counterinsurgency for real. What it is it's a military game that has a representation and a very abstract elimination of the creation of additional insurgent units. But basically, you don't have them popping up like you do in Vietnam and having to chase them down and they run away and all kind of stuff like that. They're being used really as military facets in the game. I'm not familiar enough with the situation, especially when you start talking about the FMLN, where... No, I'm trying to remember. Am I talking about the right thing? I think so. I have to go look it up. FMLN, yeah. In terms of like hey, were they really only being suppressed by air, and was their primary effect a military one? And my gut tells me probably not, but again, this is not an area of expertise for me. Not that there's any, so, the closest that comes is places where, like, nobody knows much of anything, and then I'm on about equal par with everyone else. Okay, so yeah, I'm just trying to express that. But I wanted to do this battle because it's probably the most interesting. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 strength points hitting 1, 2, 3 strength points. This is just a town, which means it doesn't give anything. It doesn't give the doubling. So that gives me a 1-to-1 in the clear, actually, which is a better table. What do I have? I negate the river. I have insurgency units on both sides. Those cancel out. There's a -1 to the die roll for the town. The engineer and the helicopter each give a column shift. And I think that's it. Could I look up and try to trace through it all? Yeah, but I'm pretty sure. So I think I'm at 1-to-1 at -1 as my net. That's not great, but it's also not terrible. And it would be a huge advantage if I can bust through at this moment. I cannot. I end up with a 2. That would have been neat. Nope, I end up with a 2. I have to take a step hit. I'll take it on the insurgents again. I took one on the insurgents over here too. I'm not sure about this. But yeah, I did not gain my big advantage. So we might be in trouble with the Sandinistas here. All right. And I kind of skip over all this. None of this matters. We go to the reinforcement phase. I got 1 point. I can upgrade. I think it's got to be a full strength insurgent. Yeah, it's got to be a full strength insurgency unit into an infantry battalion that I can then reorg. So I think I'm going to do that. Are there any restrictions on it? Must trace supply, cannot be in an enemy zone of control. So it's not going to be these guys over here. This guy is my 1-2 who I accidentally pulled off last time. I don't think I can actually take an upgrade of a unit, so we'll take 2 more reorg points, which will be helpful. Now, I could disband insurgency units to bring them in next turn. When did that happen? First insurgency disbandment was here. Second insurgency disbandment is here. Let me look up the rules on that, because I would rather bring a whole bunch of insurgents in next turn, and I think that's my plan. Okay, so there's an insurgency table somewhere here. Probably not down there. Damn it. Might be. Oh, that's air combat. There it is, the insurgency command table. Okay, so this is done when an insurgency is disbanded or... Now, what's interesting here is the additional insurgency point. That is not mentioned in the disbanding phase. So I think a yes just gives you your point back. You don't lose the additional point. And I just have to be within 3 of another unit. So that guy can try to disband it. It doesn't matter that I'm in a zone of control. And this is how you recover these suckers, is you do this. Now, I am in rough terrain, which is not the best. I need a 4, 5, or 6. Actually, it may be that a yes plus doesn't do it, because it specifies a yes. It says on any yes result. Okay. Yeah. I'm in my home country, which means I get a +1. I might be in a city or town. I'm in a town. That gives me a -1. But that's only placement outside home country. Okay. So yeah, so +1 to the die roll. All right. He doesn't go anywhere. And then this guy is in the forest and with a +1. And he doesn't go anywhere. Well, I got nothing back. All right. And now I take the points that I was holding on, and we head over to the Somoza. And I think I'm going to break this into a couple of videos because I can tell it's going a long way and I'm almost halfway through. But let's finish up. Let's figure out what the hell they're doing. I forgot. Nope, I got nothing coming in this turn. Okay, cool. One of the problems that I have as the Somoza is I can't really afford to attack. Yes, it looks like I have, like, you know, maybe a local advantage in strength where I could attack someplace like here. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm facing 6, so I really don't. If I concentrated more force, I could, but here's the problem. You could say, well, you know, you got some units that aren't doing anything. They're not, but they are. The problem is that insurgents can be placed in those locations. The rules for insurgency placement are up to 2 hexes away. They can be placed adjacent to enemy units, but not in the same hex as an enemy unit. They can't be placed in cities outside their home country, but Nicaragua is the NLF, Fsln, whatever. Unit, home country. So, and it's not specified that it's not, so I think I could insurge into a city even though I couldn't capture a city without the police interfering. I think I could create an insurgent there. So there's absolutely no defense if I don't have somebody in a city to protect it in that sense. It's kind of twisted because home country is a weird situation in these cases, but whatever. You're going to be facing the same thing in the main game as well. This isn't like something special for this scenario. If you don't garrison things, you can create insurgents in them, but if you move insurgents from somewhere else to a city, or a town for that matter, you end up facing the police. Homegrown versus otherwise, I guess. So I have to have garrisons in all these locations down here, and that's important. I also think that the Fsln is going to drop some riots down very soon. Again, you know, the reason for that is it cuts the supply of the Somoza units. They only have 2 supply sources. I drop a riot in each, and boom, I knock out their supplies for a turn. That's all I can do, though. Then I have 1 more for when Managua is the only supply source. So maybe I shouldn't have launched my attack until I did that. Can never remember all the different little tricks. You know, there's so many little rules in the game, and it's hard to piece together, hey, how am I going to do this using all these little rolls? All right. So what does that leave me with? Well, it leaves me with basically no attacks that I can really make because I can't strip units off and try to get a real local superiority. But I do have my bombers, and we're going to fly them out. It was 3 points. Didn't I bomb like 2 spaces before? I have 3. No, I used close air support. Yeah. So I can drop basically 1 bomb on something, and that's all I got. And I'm going to drop it here in the clear terrain because that doesn't give me a penalty. And I need, it looks like a 5 or a 6. I do not get it. That's basically the end of the Somoza turn. There's just not much I can do there. Did I want to recuperate anything? Is there anything to recuperate? I don't think so. No. Okay. And I think we're going to load this one up again for the reasons I explained. Planes are in good position. Everything's set. Boom. We send it up. And let's see if I can remember the things that I think of in a given turn as to what I want to do, you know, to try to crack this nut. Because it's not trivial. But again, it's also not particularly interesting.